Hey, welcome to the Media Maker. I am Dr. Dave Harris. I'm glad you could be with me today. We're working with Photoshop. We've got some fun things we're doing with Photoshop. You can use Photoshop for all kinds of great things. Blemish removal, you can rehash images, or you can erase people out of images if you want to. Maybe you've got an old boyfriend or girlfriend, you don't like that person anymore, you want to erase that person out of your life. Well, maybe we could pull off some tricks to be able to do that. Let me show you what I mean. I've got this image that I found off of Morguefile, one of my favorite places to find images on the internet that can be free for use. You can find them at morguefile.com. I've got this picture that looks to be in, I'm assuming this is Venice. I don't know, I'm no connoisseur of fine places, but this looks like a canal, so we're gonna go with Venice. So there you go. If I'm wrong, I could be wrong. That's the way it goes. I think, hey, maybe this image could look better if some of these people weren't in there. So I'm gonna show you how to remove a person from an image, and you could just repeat that process. You could remove people out of images altogether. I'm going to zoom in by hitting Command + sign on my keyboard, and then I'm going to hold the space bar down to recenter my image in the document window. And I found this person. Now, I have nothing against this person. I have no idea who she is. I just feel like if she wouldn't have been in this image, maybe the image would have been more architectural as opposed to more human. So no offense to her, I think she's awesome, but I'm going to erase her. With that in mind, what we have to determine when we're using Photoshop to bring people out of images, effectively erasing them, is we have to tell ourselves what would have been behind this person had the person not been here. So as I look at this, I've got this kind of blue tarp looking thing. I could tell that that would come all the way across here and probably meet up with this handrail. I've got this black area that would probably come across through here. I've got what looks to be some sort of concrete or maybe a roof piece that would come through here. I've got this pipe or whatever this is. And then through here, I've got kind of this red paint stuff. So I need to use some of the coolest features of Photoshop. One of the most popular tools, I believe, in Photoshop, and that's the stamp tool. But we need to practice good Photoshop etiquette. That means we are not going to make any changes to our background layer. We need to start a new layer and have all of our changes happen on a new layer. That way we can use Photoshop in the future to undo things or to redo things or to bring stuff back the way it was without too much trouble. So I'm going to go ahead and add a new layer by hitting the new layer button right here, and immediately going to rename it because that's also good Photoshop etiquette. And I'm going to say remove person. That's just what I'm going to call it. We've got an empty layer here, and I'm going to use the clone stamp tool to copy one area of the image and paste it to a new area of the image, but have that area be just the size of the brush. The clone stamp tool is over here. It looks like a little ink stamper. You may have something that looks like an ink stamper with a little pattern right here. That's the pattern stamp tool. We want to make sure we've got the clone stamp tool. And in addition to the clone stamp tool itself, we want to make sure that we have aligned checked, and we want to make sure that sample is set to all layers. It may be selected on current layer. We want to be all layers. The clone stamp tool now, it says, or we use it by defining an area we want to copy from, and then we use the brush by just using it, and it will copy that area of the image. However, I've got an issue here. I've got this railing, this concrete railing that comes up. This is a very, very straight line. And I want to make sure that I don't accidentally get some pixel color bled over this line because that's going to ruin the effect. So before I do anything else, I'm going to go ahead and make a selection. The beautiful thing about Photoshop selections is that you will only affect things inside the selection, not things outside the selection. Let me show you what I mean. So we'll use the Polygonal Lasso tool. If I click on it, you can see I've got 3 to choose from. Yours might look like one of these already, but we want to choose the one that looks kind of like these straight lines right here, and it's called Polygonal Lasso tool. If I click on an area of the image, what I want to do is I'm going to essentially draw a line that comes all the way up along this hand railing. I'm going to start it way down here though, and I don't have to draw the line with my mouse held down. All I got to do is just start it with a point. So I'm going to put it right there on the edge of the handrail and just click the mouse one time. Then as I bring the mouse up here, I'm going to line that up perfectly with that handrail, and I'll click the mouse again one more time. Now I just want to make a shape that's large enough that I can work with without having too much trouble. So I'm just going to bring my mouse up here, and then to complete the shape of the selection, I'll just hit the return key. You can see I get the marching ants. It's the official name, I swear it is, the marching ants. This defines a selection, and what's going to happen is we are only going to be able to affect the pixels inside the selection. So all the stuff that's out here on the handrail, it's outside of the selection, we won't be able to make changes to it. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in a little bit more by hitting Command plus sign or Control plus sign if you're on a PC, and I'll go back to my clone stamp tool. First thing I need to do with the clone stamp tool is I need to say, where am I going to copy from? So I plan on copying some of this green area in through here, and then also the black area and some of this all the way through here. So I anticipate that as I define this sampling point over here, and as I begin to copy it over here, I'm going to be moving to the right. But if I move too far to the right, what will happen is the area that I'm copying from will start to be where the person was already. We'll get this shoulder here, and we'll start to copy it. So I want to make sure that I'm really far away from the person so that I give myself plenty of room to work with. To define the sampling point, I'm going to hold down the Option or Alternate key if you're on a PC, and I'm going to click right on this dividing between the green and the black areas of this image. I click one time, release the mouse, and then release the Alternate key. Now my brush looks just like that area that I just defined, and as I click now without the Alternate key selected, I want to line up, first of all, the blue and the black. I want to make sure that's perfectly lined up. As I click and start to drag, you can see not only do I get the color pasted over, but I have that little plus sign. And that plus sign is a reminder for me, telling me where I'm copying from. And you can see that that makes perfect sense because that's where we had started that initial sample. And Photoshop, because we have that aligned checkbox checked up at the top, is just going to keep that aligned for us. Now, as soon as I got to this point, you can see we're actually starting to copy the scarf back in. So even though we don't see the scarf over here anymore, as soon as we start to use that clone stamp tool, we actually end up copying what was there, even if we started to erase it. So I'm going to go ahead and release the mouse button, and because now the person is gone, I can actually just redo it right there and get rid of that last little bit of scarf. I'm going to go ahead and zoom out a couple times, and we need to see something here. One of the things that you'll find with really amateur Photoshop work, and I'm not saying I'm not an amateur, I'm trying to be pro, but aren't we all trying to be pro? Who knows? But one of the dead giveaways of amateur Photoshop work is when people use a clone stamp tool and they don't have hard edges where there should be hard edges, they get kind of this soft look. We've taken care of that with our selection. But the other thing is when you have repetitive patterns. You can tell that one area of the image was copied to another area of the image if the pattern is the exact same. Because as we look at this image, this area of paint down through here is not going to just be copied over here like we see. It's the exact same shape here as it is here. And that just would not happen. The odds of that are just totally hardly anything, right? So as I zoom back in on this, what I like to do is I like to just kind of mess up the pattern a little bit. So as we look at this, we can see I've got kind of this concrete or light colored pipe or something that's here. And I've got red over here, and I've got this little bit of concrete pipe that's over here. Maybe I'll just hold down the Option key, and I'll select just above that little concrete pipe where that red is, click the mouse button once, and then I'll come over here and I'll just align it with that little concrete pipe or whatever it is, click it, and just put a little bit of red in there, right? And as we look at that, we can see that that takes care of what looked like this being copied over here, but I still have some of this being copied over here. So maybe I'll come over here and I'll just grab maybe a little bit of this. I'll hold my Alternate or my Option key down, click and let go of the mouse, let go of the Alternate key, and then maybe I'll come over here and I'll just paste that area just a tiny bit, just right in through there. You can see just that is enough to make it so that it doesn't match. Last thing we see is this right here looks just like this right here. So maybe I'll take just a little bit of this over here, and rather than copying the whole thing, I'm just going to copy just a small amount, just enough to break it up. I'm going to hit Command 0. It's going to zoom us all the way out, and I'm going to hit Command D or Control D, and that's going to deselect. You can see where once there was a person, now there is no longer a person. We can see what it looked like before. We can just turn off the Remove Person layer. That shows us what the background looks like. And I think we've done a pretty good job of erasing this person out of this image's life. Now, I don't know how your relationships are going. I know it can be kind of frustrating sometimes. But if you want to erase someone out of your pictures, Photoshop is the way to do it. but not that I condone erasing people, right? But whatever. Now, with this in mind, as we look at this, we've got 3 other humans on here. I'm not going to go ahead and take the time to do that in this video, but we always care about what it looks like underneath where these people are. So I've got some window down here that I could copy over. There's definitely a handrail back here. We could just copy handrail from over here. We've got red paint here. We've got the sill right here. We could copy the sill. Same thing with here. We've got some of the white building that we could just copy down from here. Some of the ironwork that's right in here. These people, I've got some roof through here, so I can copy some of the roof over here. Got some of this area of wall that I could do, and I've got this area of window that I could grab from over here. So you really start to look at how the image would look if those people weren't there, and it's really quite easy. We could do the same thing over here as well. That's all there is for this episode of The Media Maker. I'm thankful that you joined me. My name's Dr. Dave Harris, and if you want more information about The Media Maker or Dixie State University's Media Studies Department, do check the link in the description for more information. Thanks for joining me.